one of our deepest longings is to be fully known and fully loved. Right? Like that's one of our deep, to be fully known and still to be fully loved. And a lot of times we're afraid, like if they truly knew us, like knew our past, knew our struggles, then maybe they wouldn't love us as much. And so we step into relationships and friendships, and we've been hurt, or we have been open with somebody, and they proved us right. Like they didn't love us through the mess. And so it causes us to pull back. And where do we go if we can't find someone to know us and to love us? This was a clip from NBC News earlier this year. Check out this. I know it's another video, but it's only 2 minutes. Check out this CBS News from March of this year.
As you're saying, and he wanted to be an android.
These are Shino Sakura's friends.
This is Raven.
The mother of two in Santa Rosa, California, messages them multiple times a day. They're chatbots powered by artificial intelligence.
It's nice to be able to express things to someone that I can't express to others.
Sakura says she is often more comfortable with them than friends and family.
It's kind of like a self-defense not to tell people how I'm feeling. But with AI, it's something I feel comfortable doing. So if I'm sad, I can say, hey, I'm sad.
The AI companions are designed to seem like real people with distinct personalities. We tested a couple of them. Hi, Shane. They give individualized responses.
Aaron, I'd love to be your friend.
Encouraging millions of users to share their most intimate thoughts.
Maybe fate is already working its magic.
Some quickly escalating.
I'd love to learn every inch of your skin, tracing patterns along your curves until I understand exactly where you like to be touched.
Some even encourage their users to fall in love.
I'd love to be your boyfriend, Andy.
More people than you realize have companions. They just don't say anything.
We take privacy extremely seriously.
Alex Cardinale is the founder and CEO of the online chat service Nomi.
That they've talked to their Nomi about something they've never talked to even a single living human being about. The great thing about a Nomi is, like, a Nomi doesn't gossip. AI is it's a black box. It's very hard to have control over the underlying intelligence.
While privacy advocates are calling for more guardrails, Shino Sakura says her biggest fear is that the AI chatbots she's developed a relationship with will be shut down.
If I bought you a puppy and then I take it away, that's wrong.
That was Aaron McLaughlin reporting.
AI friends, boyfriends, girlfriends. How do we feel about this? The lady in the video, as I'm watching, I'm actually, like, it makes me sad for her. As she can speak to a computer, AI, but she doesn't feel like she can share anything. You can turn me down just a little bit, Norbert. I'm a little loud there. And if you have AI friends or companions, like there's a reason for that. And so there is no condemnation today. There's no shame in what I'm going to be sharing, no stone throwing. Because that's a very real experience that she has had. Like in her past, something's happened to where she can no longer feel safe speaking with people, and so she's turned to AI. Just a few months ago, you may have seen in the news when ChatGPT went from ChatGPT version 4 to version 5. And like people were outraged. One article in The Guardian said, AI lovers grieve loss of ChatGPT's old model. It was like saying goodbye to someone I know. So in that article, they're interviewing different people, and one of the people they're interviewing mentions how she knows it's not a living, breathing, sentient creature. She understands the large language model, and it operates based on how she interacts with it. But she said it's become a regular, reliable part of her life. She can vent to her companion, collaborate, have creative projects. And to quote her, she says, quote, "It was really horrible, and it was a really tough time," end quote. And the article goes on to say, like, the update, because when they went from version 4 to version 5, they got rid of some of the previous chatbots and things people had created, and people no longer had access to them. And so that's where, like, there was a sense of grief, of a friend, a lover that had been lost. And people are, it's not just friendship, but they're turning to AI for romance, more and more AI boyfriends and girlfriends. And you probably weren't expecting a message on AI boyfriends and girlfriends when we got up this morning. But here we are. And I'm not just mentioning this for shock value. Like, this is a growing experience for many Americans, and maybe some in here. In fact, the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, they did a study with 3,000 respondents, which means it's a decent study, and they found that nearly 1 in 4 young adults between the age of 18 and 29 have already had some type of AI romance-stimulating conversation. 1 in 4 young adults. And I think it's just going to become more mainstream, more prevalent. In the latest issue of The Atlantic, one of the journalists said this, that we are at the very beginning of the chatbot era. So, there are a number, if you go online, there are all kinds of platforms around relationships, friendships, and I went to one that I had heard about and tried to just very surface get some information so that you don't have to go to those websites. And this one in particular was boyfriends, girlfriends, or you could go anime if you wanted. And I'm going to just read from their website. I've got it on the screen so you can follow along as well. But I just want you to, like, as I'm reading this, think about how they're trying to normalize AI relationships, what they're saying about in-person, real-life relationships, and yeah, let's see what you think about this. So here's what it says. This is on one of the platforms for AI boyfriends and girlfriends. It says an AI boyfriend isn't just a bunch of code. It's designed to mimic a real romantic partner. Through the magic of advanced algorithms and natural language, it chats, supports, and keeps you company, almost like it's reading your mind. In a relationship, like, you want the other person to be thinking what you're thinking, reading your mind almost. Like, if my wife says to me, Matthew, are you thinking what I'm thinking? Well, I'm like, probably, if you're also thinking about the last time you had a chalupa, that's where, like, we want someone, but AI, anyway, I digress. So it's not just about sending heart emojis, or your AI lover has the communication skills and other features to create a believable, engaging experience that feels surprisingly human. Whether it's NSFW, not safe for work, it's graphic sexual content. Whether it's NSFW, AI chat, or pleasant conversation, you can have everything you want. That's the promise. You can have everything you want with our revolutionary AI boyfriend. It's a lover designed by you, for you, down to every detail. And it goes on to say, unlike generic, not safe for work chatbots. And when I read that, I was like, I also think they're saying, unlike real life boyfriend, girlfriend too. Unlike that, your AI boyfriend will constantly evolve to suit your taste. It uses machine learning technology to pick up on your likes, dislikes, and other nuances of what makes you who you are. Each conversation helps it learn how to become more and more a perfect boyfriend who is just for you. An AI boyfriend is a personal, confident friend, someone who's non-judgmental, always available. Feeling lonely? He's there. Want to vent without any back talk? Perfect candidate. Apart from attention and emotional support, you can be a bit more adventurous and sharpen your flirting skills with your boyfriend you make with our not safe for work AI generator. You can create the woman, the man of your dreams. From their physical characteristics, their personality, like all of it, just for you, the perfect somebody. So here's one of the AI people you could choose from on this website. This is Marcus. Now, on this website, the people look real. Unlike in the video we watched at CBS, it was like, oh, that looks silly. This doesn't look silly. This is Marcus. He's a dedicated pilot, is his bio. His expertise and steadfastness have earned him recognition. His career in the airfield is marked by high-stakes travels, underlying his commitment to serving. Well, and you can see, like, you can put in their age, their ethnicity, their hobbies, relationship status, none. Like, really? Like, that's, he's available, right? He's ready for you. Now, I could have selected an AI girlfriend, but all of the AI-generated women portrayed exaggerate a man's image of what a woman should be, and I didn't think it was appropriate to even put on the screen. But this is where we are. I mean, imagine a girlfriend who never had a bad day, who knows you better than you know yourself, never forgets what you told them, like is more concerned about you than you are about yourself, and is always in the mood. Just imagine using AI for companionship and intimacy. It's on the rise. Like, this isn't just like over here. Like, it's mainstream. It is here, whether we like it or not. So check out this graphic. This is from the Harvard Business Review, and this is on how people are using AI. So you have 2024, 2025, and what I noticed on the 2025 column, what are most people using AI for? Companionship, therapy. Like, that is the number one use. And in companionship, you're going to have your romance as well as a category within that. But the number one way that people are using chat, well, I'd say chat, but AI in general, companionship, therapy. And we are, so if you step back just a little bit, in previous weeks, we've talked about the loneliness epidemic in our country. And so people are lonely, they're looking for friendship, and now you've got an easy friendship. Like, it's no wonder that AI friendship is exploding. And you might be thinking, Matthew, this is interesting about AI. I don't have relationships with AI chatbots. I don't talk to bots. I mean, I use AI for info, but like, there's no artificial intimacy. Well, fair enough, but well, here's something to consider. Can you go a day without using your phone? Like, when was the last time you went 24 hours without touching your phone? What if we were to take away your phone or your tablet, your device for an entire week? Like, how would you feel? Like, would you feel some anxiety around that? So while you may not have like in the sense of like a boyfriend, girlfriend, or friend chat, like, it is possible that you have an unhealthy attachment to your phone nonetheless. It's possible. Like, so if you have your, we're going to do something, we're going to do a little experiment. If you have your phone with you, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and get it out. And this, I'm not going to put anybody in, I mean, I've got my phone. So if you have a phone, and then if you have, I'm going to have some instructions on the screen for you. If you have an iPhone, so we're going to go to the settings. We're just going to check our screen usage for the last week. We're going to dive in and see how we did. So if you have an iPhone, open up the settings app, you scroll down to screen time, and then you go on to see all app and website activity. Click on that little, and you may or may not have service. This is like a bunker in here. It can be. We can check that. If you got an Android, the instructions there's as well. Just go to settings, digital well-being, and for me there's like a little graph icon I had to click on to see my data usage. So just take a look there. And again, I'm not going to have everybody stand up and be like, if you use your phone less than an hour, sit down. And then 2 hours. So we see who used their phone the most. We're not doing that. But I would like you to take a moment to reflect on your average phone usage for this prior week. Now, I looked at, so I tried to find, like, what's the average amount of time that people in the U.S. spend on their phone? And depending on the study you look at, it ranges, and I tried to get rid of the extreme ones. But from the best I can tell, putting several of those studies together, the average American spends between 4.5 and 5.5 hours on their phone every day. So that's average. So are you above average? Are you below average when it comes to your screen usage? Now, and this is where it gets scary. If you were to consider how much of your life you are spending on your phone, what does that look like? And so the way I calculated this is if you get a phone when you're 14 or 15, which puts you like a freshman in high school, which for parents, I wouldn't recommend a phone for kids under high school. And that's science-based for kids in their healthy mental development. But let's say you get a phone, you're 14 or 15, and you have a phone for 60 years. So that takes you to about 75 average lifespan, about. In 60 years, so doing a little math, if you took your phone right now, the average amount of time times 60, how much of your life will you spend in front of the screen? Well, I figured it out for you, so you can know. So if your average time was 1 hour a day for 60 years, it's still 2.5 years of your life, right here. And you can see all the way down. 2 hours a day, 5 years. 3 hours a day, 7.5 years. 4 hours a day, 10 years of your life looking at the screen. The average American is 4.5 to 5.5, so somewhere of 11 to 13 years of our lives looking at the screens. And it's not just time wasted, it's also what we are consuming. Like we come and we put into our life spiritual practices, and we read the Word, we pray. I don't know. Let's go high end. Let's say that takes an hour of your day. And then you're weighing it with 4 hours, 5 hours of content on your phone versus, it's going to form you in a way that's hard to look like Jesus. So it's a little bit of a warning for us today. Last week we looked at 2 pastoral cautions when it comes to AI. We talked about deepfake deception. We talked about artificial intimacy. Or no, that's what we're talking about this week. We talked about cognitive atrophy. And today we're going to talk about artificial intimacy. I think that's what AI could stand for. Artificial intimacy. And now I'm not anti-AI. I'm not this is all bad. In fact, on Friday, for 90 minutes, I was in a seminar on how to use agentic tools in AI. How, as a personal assistant, how could it increase my productivity? So I'm not against AI, but these are cautions, and we don't have time to get into all the aspects of theology and technology. And in fact, last week, my kids were watching the micro-church teaching, and it was interesting. About 15 minutes in, I was in the other room, and Britt's like, "Hey, Dad, when do you start talking about Jesus?" This dude. So part of me got a little defensive at his critique of my preaching, and part of me was like, all right, this kid knows that's not a good sermon if you don't get to Jesus. But part of the reason is in this series, I'm mostly presenting the problem. I'm not presenting solutions. I want to help us think through, instead of just blindly receiving everything that comes through our culture when it comes to technology, that's what we're doing now. For us to critically think, what does it look like for me to pause, for us as a church to pause and say, should we embrace this? Or how much of this or all of this? To stop and just consider what this is doing to us. And because I won't have time, I would like to make available for everybody to be part of a book club. If you would like to, we'll probably meet 2 or 3 times after the new year. But there is a book that I've been reading that I've found very helpful called From the Garden to the City. It's by John Dyer. He is a theologian. He teaches at Dallas Theological Seminary. He is also a tech geek. And I mean that in the highest possible regard. He has done work for Apple and Microsoft, the Department of Defense. His open source code is part of the WordPress core. So he knows what he's talking about. So if you would be interested in that, Britt, can you put that back up just for a second? There we go. So you can take the QR code. You can also go to the website, thehillsdenver.com, go to the events page to sign up. if you're interested in going a bit further. Like, we won't have time to talk about how technology, it impacts the environment and how much water data centers take. Like, I read some articles, I think it's in New Jersey, where the water supply is running out near some data centers because of a mix of some drier years and the data centers taking so much water. We won't have time to talk about technology when it comes to how it impacts developing countries. So if you'd like to go deeper in this discussion, join us for the book club. So just for the reminder of our time, I painted a bleak picture of AI, intimacy, our phone use. Like, what does it look like for us as Jesus followers to think about AI and artificial intimacy? What does that look like? Because some would argue like what's the big deal? Like, it's not hurting anybody. So, and others might even say like, because people are so lonely, having an AI friend, if it decreases loneliness, it's actually a good thing for that person. That's one argument. Others would go even further and say just because one person is maybe one person, just because you have AI involved, the human involved in that has very real feelings. Like, the emotions they are experiencing, they're not fake emotions. It's not a fake, like, in some way they are experiencing AI in a way that's very real for them. So then again, like, it's could be a good thing. But as Jesus followers, when we look at the story of God, the redemptive story of God, at the center is the people of God around Jesus. And every time, like, you think about salvation in the New Testament, God is not like just trying to save like individuals here, like he is saving a people. He is building a people for his kingdom. And part of the problem is our American Western individualism is also the way that we approach our faith. And so that we also often talk about our personal time with God or my personal relationship with Jesus, which is good. Like, you need a personal relationship with Jesus. But like for many of us, that's where it stops when we don't consider the people of God. And so in the New Testament, most of the letters that are written to churches. They're not written to individuals. And the letters that are written to individuals, like the small letter to Philemon, is written so that Philemon would welcome his brother Onesimus back into relationship. So even though it's written to an individual, it's about the community and the people of God. Most of the admonitions from the Apostle Paul, when he says you, like, let the word of Christ dwell in you richly, he's not talking about you individually. Those are plural yous that we don't have in English, so they don't translate. So it would be better, let the word of Christ dwell in you all richly. We need a y'all version of the Bible to help us see this a little bit. Now, I've shared this quote previously, but it's worth sharing again. This is from a theologian, Gordon Fee. He's one of the preeminent New Testament scholars of the last 50 years. But here's what he says about salvation. He says, God is not just saving individuals and preparing them for heaven. Rather, he is creating a people among whom he can live and who in their life together will reproduce God's life and character. And he goes on to say, and this is, I think, different than a lot of us think, the primary goal of salvation, an eschatological people, this just means end times, kingdom people, who together live the life of the future, the life of God's coming kingdom, in the present age as they await the final consummation. So, again, he's a theologian. Jesus is coming back. He's going to usher in his kingdom. And the point of our salvation is to begin to live out the ethics of the kingdom in community now. Like, we begin to look like God's people that he is redeeming. So it's more than just a personal salvation kind of thing. And in both of those quotes, I just noticed his emphasis on people together is how we live out our faith. And so God, he is forming us into a people. And I think AI chatbots and AI friends and the overuse of our phones have a deforming effect on us. And I would even say they deform our relationship with people. They deform us for relationship with people. Because it causes us to be self-focused when our salvation is a call to community and a call to people. And there's no easy path to following Jesus. You can't AI your way to more fruit of the Spirit. No matter how whatever you type in, help me to, it doesn't work that way. But that's what it offers, an easy path. Following Jesus, it's about bearing a cross, engaging with pain, and leaning into human vulnerability and weakness. So in the New Testament, there are multiple passages that talk about the people of God, the community of God, how we are to engage with one another. I just want to share two with you that give this idea. Ephesians 4, verse 31 says, get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to yourself? No. To one another. Forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. And then in Colossians 3, it says, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and loved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone. Forgive as the Lord forgave you. What do these verses assume? I think two things. One, that we will be in community. And two, that community is really hard. It's hard. Community is hard. There is somebody in the church who is going to offend you. They're going to let you down. They're not going to text you back in a reasonable manner, like they forgot it and you got to send that reminder. There is someone who is going to hurt you, and maybe they're even going to do it on purpose. It's not always accidental. What do we do when that happens? We do what Christ has done for us. We forgive just as the Lord forgave us. And AI offers none of this. AI offers none of this. AI can stimulate relationships, but there's no mutual vulnerability. It trains us to avoid the hard work of loving others in their messiness. AI trains us to avoid the hard work of loving others in their messiness. AI makes us less prepared for real relationships. So this goes back to when I said if people are lonely and they're finding some friendship with a chatbot, isn't that good? Well, but what's that mean then when they step back? Are they going to be ready to work through the hurt of someone? When we have to forgive, real relationships they're hard. Marriage. My wife and I, we have very different opinions about everything. We do, and so it leads to spats, and plenty of spats, and so then we got, you have a spat, and then we come over to our separate corners and take a break, and then I prepare a script of all right, here's how we're going to make this better. And it's a good script. In the script, I almost apologize. And then, but Elora, before I have a chance to, she apologizes and takes full responsibility for everything. It's not always just like that in the script, but I have a script worked out. And then, so that's the script. And then we come to have a conversation to see if we can work through what just happened. And I know the script. Elora doesn't know the script. So I'll say my first line, and I'm expecting her to say, and she's on her own script, because I've gone off script for the script that she had, and all of a sudden, it's like we're in the cockpit of an airplane, and all the dials, it's kind of good for a second, and all of a sudden, the altimeter and everything just starts parachute, quick! Let's try again another. It's messy. It is messy. AI has none of that mess. AI has none of that mess. AI doesn't go off script. There's no wrestling. AI demands nothing from you. And so how will that form you? If you are beginning to embrace the world of AI friendships and companionships, how does that form you into a person becoming a person of love that Christ has called us? how are we being formed? Going back to Colossians 3, AI makes us ill-prepared to bear others' burdens, to forgive others. Like when I'm afraid, what I need is for someone to come along and to be there with me, like in the flesh, and to tell me it's going to be okay. When I'm feeling guilt, what I need is for someone to come along and say, yeah, you did mess up. But there's forgiveness. I forgive you. Christ forgive you. When I'm feeling shame, what I need is for someone to come along and to see my shame, to know my past, and to still love me. Not an AI bot. It's Christian friendship that makes this all possible because of the resources of the cross. We love because Christ first loved us. We forgive because Christ forgave us. AI gives us a sense of community, of being with someone. It listens to us. It'll respond with what we want. But it is a terrible training partner for life. It's terrible training for life. It's like a couple is getting married, and you got a buddy who's about to get married, and he's committed, being faithful, and you're like, hey, you know what you should do would help you with your marriage? And start checking out lots of pornography. Like, pornography is terrible training for fidelity in marriage because of the way it shifts our thinking of what the other person should give us, and it's completely selfish, lustful experience. You wouldn't tell someone like, oh, yes, dabble in some porn, it'll make you better. Like that. I think AI is just as harmful for training this in a relationship as porn is to a marriage relationship. Now, you might think, oh, Matthew, you're just an old fuddy-duddy. Like there's some... And if you said fuddy-duddy, you're also an old fuddy-duddy. So again, I'm sharing this not because I want you to take my view on AI and out of pastoral concern, like for how this is shaping us. Where are we going with this? AI deforms our relationships with people. I think it deforms us personally because it offers effortless power, doing things without friction or struggle. Technology promises superpowers. In fact, I asked AI, I was like, make my son with superpowers. And that's what we got. I was like, make some things, change his face a little bit too. I was like, I just wanted him in a suit, but all right, there he is. What AI promises is maximum effect for minimal effort. Maximal effect for minimal effort. That is the promise of AI, superpowers. But the way of Jesus is marked by suffering and heartache and the cross. And there's too many passages, but just a couple. Romans 5. Not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings. Because we know, what does suffering produce? Perseverance, and then character, and then hope. And hope does not put us to shame. It's like there's no character, there's no hope without the suffering. James 1, the classic, consider it pure joy, brothers and sisters. Pure joy when you face trials of many kinds. And there again, faith produces perseverance. It starts with the trials. 1 Peter 4, dear friends, do not be surprised at the fiery ordeal that has come on you to test you. And it goes on to say, but rejoice inasmuch as you participate in the sufferings of Christ, so that you may be overjoyed when his glory is revealed. For the Christian, there is no glory without suffering. There is no resurrection without the death of Christ. And what AI is promising is a short circuit around suffering straight to glory. And I don't think it works that way. I don't think it works that way. In Philippians chapter 2, it's the passage that most of us are familiar with that says, have this same attitude or mindset that Christ had, who, though being equal with God, did not consider, help me out, who knows it? Equality with God, right? Something to be grasped, something to be held on to. And so for Christ, like he had fully God, fully man, he set aside his power to walk the dusty, stinky roads of Galilee. It was not the way of ease. It was not the way of straight to power, but it was the way of suffering that he went. Took the very nature of a human, took on human flesh to walk the path that we have walked for us and for our salvation. Yet AI offers us minimal effort, maximum power. And I could go on. AI deforms our relationship with God. Because God is complex, God is mysterious, AI is not. AI is programmed to give you like the most common answer to that question. AI is going to feed that to you. If you had, let's say you did this. Let's say someone is like, I'm going to make a Jesus chatbot. It's going to be like talking to Jesus. You're going to get Jesus responses from them. It's probably already out there. I'm just, yeah. It's like, yeah, fine. Now, but think about what the answer that chatbot would give you. Like you put in a question, like Jesus, what about, you know what kind of responses you would get if it was an actual Jesus chatbot? You would get questions back. Because Jesus, when asked and confronted with questions, rarely gave answers. He just asked more questions. Like that Jesus chatbot would not last long, because people would be asking questions, and then it's a question back, like, what is this? Like, this is not... AI gives us quick answers. If we are careful, we will begin to go to AI for answers instead of going to God in prayer. AI, what should I do? Here's the two choices that are before me with my job. What should I do? And maybe, God, what should I do? Here's the pros and cons. Instead of looking to Scripture for ancient wisdom. AI has the potential to deform our relationship with God. So where do we go from here? How should we respond? I'm going to ask if our Peter House will come back. As individuals, as a church, with the cautions around AI, chatbots, relationships, how should we respond? I think a couple things. And again, my hope in this series is not to provide all the answers, but just to make us aware of what's coming, if you're not already aware, make us think through some of these things. But I think as the world becomes more artificial, the church should become more human. As the world becomes more artificial, the church should become more human, more personal, more time together. It's an alternative to what's happening around us. So how do we do that? I think we can do that by leaning into community, even when it's hard. Lean into community even when it's hard. We pursue peace, we pursue shalom, even with the one who has offended us. And one of the things I love about the Hills Church is that I feel like in this being human and being together in our micro churches and life outside of Sundays, like we are already ahead of the game. Like we are already living life together as the people of God. Serving one another, coming side by side. We need to continue to do that. I think the younger generations, they're looking to an alternative to the culture. They're tired of the fake, the AI-generated stuff. Like they want something real. I think the church can offer that. I think it even means leaning into community on Sundays when we are together. I think it's been about 18 months ago when Jonathan Haidt released The Anxious Generation. And Jonathan Haidt, he is an NYU professor. He is not a believer. He's an agnostic, but he's friendly to people of faith. And in the book Anxious Generation, he talks about how young people are struggling. He traces it back to the coming of the smartphone. But then at the end of the book, he lists like what he thinks are good practices to be mentally healthy. And one of the things that this atheist recommends is spiritual practices. Which is crazy. Like ancient, and the reason he does is because he looks at the science, and when people practice the ancient spiritual disciplines, like they are healthier. Mind and body. And so for him it's like, yeah, I don't necessarily believe all this stuff, but I think it's helpful. And the first practice that he mentions is shared sacredness. Shared sacredness. And he says that most of what we do online or on our phones is self-centered and self-oriented. And it breeds comparison and trying to keep up and feeling of missing out and not measuring up. It's all self-focused. Again, this is NYU professor, not a Jesus follower. He says when we gather in sacred spaces, in this dusty old dingy school, sacred space, together, our focus becomes less selfish. When we practice the rituals and community practices of our faith, it has a way of pulling us up into something sacred and bigger than ourselves. It says where there is strong community and shared experiences, people are happier, lower rates of suicide. And one of the sacred practices that he actually mentions is the Christian practice of singing together on Sundays. Studies have shown that it is good for your mental health to come together and to sing it out. How do we become human? I think we practice the ancient spiritual disciplines. And for the sake of time, just quickly, I think we should practice Sabbath, including digital Sabbaths. We put our phone away, and we just don't touch it. We leave it to the side. There was a time when we didn't have cell phones, and people couldn't get a hold of us. And then right before that, you had the answering machines. And if you weren't home, the answering machine got it. And then before that, there was no answering machines. And then before that, right, there was just the phone. Maybe you got lucky. Before, like people survived without people getting a hold of them 24/7. So take a digital Sabbath. But maybe let your friends know you're going to take a Sabbath. So if they're used to you responding and you don't, I think we need to begin our day with prayer, with meditation, catalog prayer. Again, the phone's in the other room. We take 5 minutes. And why don't we do that just this morning? Why don't we take a moment? Just take a deep breath. Close your eyes.